Listen up. When white plays d4, the Slav defense gives you a solid answer. You hit back with d5. They immediately challenge you with the queen's gambit, so they push c4. Instead of taking the bait or blocking your own bishop, you play c6. This exact pawn triangle defines the Slav, keeping your position completely bulletproof while leaving your pieces flexible. From this starting point, let's dive into the Alapin Variation, where white goes for rapid development. They bring out knight to c3. You just focus on your own natural development, so you play knight to f6. They follow up and play knight to f3. Now you have a massive choice regarding the central tension. You can either grab the pawn with that capture or transition into a semi-Slav setup with that push. You are sticking to the pure Slav approach today, so d takes on c4. You were temporarily up a pawn, but that guy on c4 is a massive target. To stop you from defending it, they play a4. This is the trademark move of the Alapin, designed to completely shut down your idea of pushing that b-pawn. Since holding that extra material is basically impossible, don't be greedy. You shift your focus to active piece play. You go bishop to f5, taking absolute control of that beautiful diagonal. They immediately try to win their sacrificed pawn back, so they push e3. This opens the door for their bishop to recapture on that square. You just solidify your structure and you play e6. Right on cue, bishop takes on c4. Now that their bishop is actively placed, it is staring down your sensitive f7 pawn, so you need to react fast. You bring your dark-squared bishop out, so you go bishop to b4. This pins their knight to the king and gets you ready to castle. They will naturally castle kingside. You continue bringing your army into the fight, so you bring out your knight to d7. They will often try to prepare a massive central push, playing queen to e2. Their whole plan here is to support a powerful break with that pawn. Anticipating this threat, because you actually use your brain, you proactively drop your bishop back, so you play bishop to g6. To build even more pressure on the center, they play rook to d1. With things getting incredibly tense, you just secure your king and you castle kingside, leaving you with a fantastic playable middle game. Let's rewind the tape to this critical branching point, where you might face the Geller Gambit, a hyper-aggressive line where they try to blow you off the board. Instead of stopping your queenside expansion, like a normal person, this guy wants chaos. They immediately strike in the center and they push e4. This allows their bishop to attack your c4 pawn directly. Since they completely ignored your queenside, you immediately defend your extra pawn and you strike with b5. Now your pawn chain is firmly holding onto the c4 square. Looking to disrupt your coordination, they push e5, attacking your knight. You simply jump forward to a dominant central outpost, so you play knight to d5, keeping your advantage completely intact. Going all the way back to the main crossroads, you need to check out the Alekhine Variation to see another major weapon they might throw at you. Sticking to the master plan, you commit to the pure Slav setup, so d takes on c4. But this time, instead of playing a4, they immediately push e3. Because they haven't stopped your queenside expansion, you immediately seize the opportunity and you strike with b5. Now they will try to undermine your pawn chain, so they push a4. Rather than trading or defending passively, which is a loser mentality, you push right past their pawn and you play b4. This creates an immediate threat as your pawn is now attacking their knight on c3. They are forced to retreat their knight to a miserable square, playing knight to a2. With their knight completely sidelined, you solidify your structure and you play e6. Eventually, they recover their sacrificed pawn as bishop takes on c4. You calmly continue your development, so you go bishop to e7. They will secure their king and they castle kingside. You do exactly the same, so you castle kingside, reaching a very comfortable and dynamic middle game. Let's quickly rewind the board to look at an alternative development path. Instead of castling immediately, you could develop bishop to d7. However, this leaves your king stuck in the center a bit longer than necessary, which can be incredibly risky if the position opens up. Backing up one more time, you might also consider another knight move. You could bring out knight to d7, but again, prioritizing your king's safety is usually the much better practical choice in these structures to avoid getting checkmated early. Let's reset the board completely to see how the incredibly solid exchange variation unfolds. The game starts normally, so you push d5. They challenge the center immediately, so they push c4. To hold your ground and back up that central presence, you strike with c6. Instead of keeping the tension, because patience is for losers apparently, your opponent decides to trade immediately. So c takes on d5. You naturally respond, and c takes on d5. This leaves you with a completely symmetrical pawn structure and a perfectly balanced game. Right out of the opening, they bring out knight to c3. You want to match that early development, so you play knight to f6. They continue building their center as they play knight to f3. You just mirror them completely, so you bring out knight to c6 to keep the tension perfectly balanced. From this balanced stance, they go bishop to f4. You copy their homework and develop bishop to f5, grabbing a fantastic active diagonal for yourself. To prepare their light-squared bishop, they push e3. You follow suit right away, solidifying your central control as you push e6. The issue here is they will challenge your active piece as they go bishop to d3. You happily accept this trade. Bishop takes on d3. Their queen recaptures on d3. With that resolved, you need to get your last minor piece to its best square, so you develop bishop to d6. Seeing that strong piece, they will likely trade again. Bishop takes on d6. Your queen takes back on d6, keeping your entire position perfectly coordinated. They get their king to safety and castle kingside. You finish your own development and castle kingside as well, reaching a very comfortable, equal middle game. Let's rewind a few moves because you need to see some alternative bishop deployments here. If you try to develop bishop to d7, you end up placing it on a terribly passive square. It just sits there like a useless piece of furniture, completely failing to influence the center when you need it most. Going back to that exact same moment, another option might look tempting at first glance. You could try to go bishop to e6. The issue is that this awkwardly blocks your own e-pawn, completely disrupting your natural development flow and making it incredibly hard to get your other pieces out. Let's reset to that position one more time to check another aggressive-looking idea. You might consider pinning the knight as you go bishop to g4. It looks annoying for them, but this actually allows your opponent to easily break the pin, thanks for the free tempo, and kick your piece away. Finally, let's look at this slightly different setup where you might be tempted to fianchetto. If you try to prepare that structure as you push g6, you unnecessarily weaken your kingside dark squares. That is exactly why sticking to the standard e6 push is just so much stronger and safer. From this fresh position, let's jump into the free bishop variation, where they play knight to f3. This is just another flexible way to reach the setup you already know. You simply respond as you play knight to f6. They bring out knight to c3, keeping the central tension high. Instead of rushing to capture on c4, you establish the rock-solid Semi-Slav structure as you push e6. Your pawns are incredibly tough here, even though it temporarily locks in your light-squared bishop. They often challenge you immediately as they go bishop to g5. This is the absolute main line, and while it looks aggressive, you have a fantastic practical response. You strike back as d takes on c4. After you grab that pawn, they try to seize the center and prepare to recapture as they push e4, aiming their bishop directly at that c4 pawn. But you don't let them have it. Are you crazy? You defend your extra material and expand on the queenside as you push b5. Facing that wall of pawns, they immediately try to exploit the pin on your knight as they push e5. It looks incredibly scary, like you were just losing a piece, but you have a tactical resource ready. You break the tension and attack their bishop as you throw in h6. They go bishop to h4, maintaining the pin for now, but you keep the pressure on and completely shatter that pin as you strike with g5. Things get extremely sharp here as knight takes on g5. You simply accept the sacrifice. H takes on g5. Their bishop recaptures on g5, renewing that annoying pin on your f6 knight. To untangle, you calmly bring out knight to d7, preparing to replace the pinned piece. The sequence continues as e takes on f6. Now your light-squared bishop desperately needs a home, so you develop bishop to b7. From here, it controls the massive long diagonal down to h1, working perfectly with your rook on the a8 square to dominate the board. Let's reset the board to explore the free bishop variation where they bring out knight to c3. You respond naturally as you play knight to f6. They play knight to f3, and you lock in that solid structure as you push e6. This time, instead of pinning your knight, they go bishop to f4. A great rule of thumb in these positions is that whenever their dark-squared bishop steps outside the pawn chain, you should immediately grab the pawn. D takes on c4. They usually try to stop your queenside expansion as they push a4. This prevents you from supporting the pawn with b5 because of their control over that critical b5 square. But you don't need to push the pawn right away. Instead, you go bishop to b4, pinning their knight. They try to hold the center together, so they push e3, but you are not letting them breathe. You immediately jump in and play knight to d5. This completely flips the script, hitting their bishop and cranking up the heat on that pinned knight. Your opponent is sweating bullets right now. You are sitting on a dream position here. Your pieces are incredibly active, the targets are obvious, and you have a massive edge going forward. Looking at this exact structure, we're entering the enclosed bishop line. You stake your claim in the middle and push e6. This instantly kills any early aggression they had planned. They usually respond by keeping things rock solid, so they push e3. Sure, that pawn wall is annoying to break down, but it comes with a hilarious downside, because that bishop is officially in prison. It completely traps their own dark-squared bishop behind the pawn chain. With absolutely zero threats on the board, you just calmly bring out knight to d7. You are just getting your army coordinated. The second they go bishop to d3, the entire dynamic shifts. Now that they committed that piece, the timing is absolutely flawless for you to strike. So d takes c4. This completely forces their hand. Their bishop cakes on c4, but look at this massive positional victory. That piece had to move twice just to land on a square it could have taken in one turn. Did they forget how chess works? They just burned a crucial tempo, and in these setups, time is literally everything. You immediately punish this clumsy maneuvering by attacking that piece. You strike with b5. They have to back up, so they play bishop to d3, throwing away yet another critical tempo. With all this free time handed to you on a silver platter, your game plan practically plays itself. You're going to fianchetto that light-squared bishop with b7 to slice down the long diagonal. Then you develop the dark-squared bishop with d6 to stare down their kingside. Tuck your king away safely with g8, and eventually launch a massive queenside storm by pushing your pawn with b4. All right, that is it for today's breakdown. If this helped you punish the Semi-Slav, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more.